everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of the Women's Wellness Lounge. We are in the month of April, and this is our Becoming Her series. And tonight we are talking about giving birth to our healthy legacy. So, of course, everything that I do kind of has that like undertone where I'm going to like take you somewhere else. So, although I'm talking about giving birth to our healthy legacy, tonight's special guest is really going to talk about giving birth and doing it safely. And yes, that is part of our legacy. So, welcome to tonight's show. For those of you who do not know me as the host of the show, I am Delana Watkins, fondly known as the Wellness Maven. And here on the Women's Wellness Lounge show, we bring you real situations, raw stories, and relevant health information that can change the trajectory of your life, where you can get on or maintain your walk and your journey to a healthy lifestyle. So, without further delay, I'm going to bring today's special guest on the show and introduce her to you all. And we're going to jump right into it. And she's going to tell you a little bit about herself and her mission and what she aims to do. So, tonight's guest is Felicia McKoy Laguerre. I couldn't wait to say that. Laguerre, she's like, just let my last name just roll off of your tongue. So, welcome to tonight's show, Felicia. Why can I not hear you? There you go.
Um, I am I am Felicia McKoy Laguerre. I am a coach, doula, and herbalist, and business owner, author, and so much more.
Well, welcome to the show, beautiful. Listen, I love all of that packaged into one. Listen, when you talk about being an herbalist, right? There is so much that really goes into understanding what herbs can help you on a natural side, and then just being a doula. To me, once I really delved into what a doula does, and especially in our community among the African American women or Black Indigenous people of color, listen, I think that to me, if I had to go back and redo my birth process all over again, I would certainly embrace the process of working with a doula. So, before we get into the statistics of what Black women and Hispanic women face as it relates to maternal mortality, tell me a little bit about why you even decided to become a doula.
Great question, Delana. Um, Probably about over 20 years ago, um, I decided to be a doula after a conversation with God.
Hmm.
And part of my purpose, he told me, was to be a spiritual midwife.
Oh.
And I was like, well, what does that mean? I didn't understand it 20 some years ago. I was faced at working at an organization where I was working with women,
Hmm.
preparing them to go back to work. And so
Oh.
I knew I had a gift of training and teaching, but I didn't understand over the next 20 years what that really meant until he showed me. He's like, this is what
Hmm.
I'm calling you to do. And it's to work with women who are pregnant. In our communities, especially because of poverty, our infant mortality rate is so
Hmm.
much
Oh
higher.
my goodness.
But he showed me that not only in the physical, but that they needed support as well in the spiritual to birth forth their purposes.
Oh.
And so that this was so much greater than even just the physical manifestation of it, of delivering a baby, of really having a baby. It's like, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but he said, whatever I will bind on earth, I will
Hmm.
bind in heaven. And so
Yes.
it's like you got to work on this relationship to work on this relationship. And the better this relationship is, the better this relationship becomes. So it's a simultaneous thing that happens. And giving birth is just one of those things that is not just a natural thing, it is a spiritual thing.
Absolutely. Like I'm over here just thinking about that again. As I said before, I'm thinking about that whole birthing process, right? It is truly a spiritual thing. When you think about what it is that's taking place when you are giving birth, it is more than just making sure that there's a successful reproduction that takes place, right? In the end, that you give birth to a
Absolutely.
live, healthy being. It's also something that goes on that happens mentally and spiritually. And so I want to
And
delve into that
emotionally.
and just like, yeah, really break that down because I know that people, of course, when we think of doula, anytime you Google something or you hear about something on the mainstream, you oftentimes just get the end product of what that person does or what is happening in that moment. But I think it's a little bit more than that. And I think, and I know that people need to understand that you're not just there as to coach a person through the whole birthing process of the breathing and to make sure that there is a successful healthy live birth in the end. So talk through that with us. Talk to us really what that looks like, what connection begins
Okay.
before you actually help. Oh, okay, everyone, I apologize. Looks like she's got a weak signal. I'm going to see if I can put her up on the screen. Okay, Felicia, can you hear me? Okay, unfortunately, we lost her. I will wait for her to log back in. So I was asking
Felicia
her
McKoy
to
Laguerre
talk
joined.
to us about being able to go deeper than just having a live birth on birthing process on the other end. There you are. Okay, your signal's back. All right, so pick right back up as if you never even left.
Great. So a doula is like a life coach, but it's so much more. When she works with a woman who's pregnant, the thing is you're trying to reduce the stress. In Hispanic and African American populations, infant mortality is so much higher. Our ACE scores are so much higher, which tells us really is much more higher. Our poverty is at a greater risk, and having a doula is someone there to help walk you through life, deal with life, the trauma, the pains, homelessness, so many different things that our mamas experience on a higher rate than any other race in our country. So a doula, she's really there to support you, to coach you, to encourage you, to give you resources, to connect you to resources, to tell you you're going to be fine, it's going to be okay, you're going to make it. um, but she also can offer some spiritual as well as herbal remedies to help you through it, mostly after in the postnatal period after delivery. But she's far as the herbs. But other than that, she's coaching you, she's encouraging you, she's reminding you that you can do this, it's okay. The encouraging you to have a natural birth,
Natural birth.
encouraging you to know what questions to ask in the prenatal visits. Just so
Mhm.
many variations of having a baby.
Right, of having the support. Now you talked about, and to me, honestly, as I think, especially for me, I was 23 when I was pregnant with my daughter, and although being in the healthcare field and being a nurse, there were a lot of things that I knew, but not necessarily about that whole process between the pregnancy and the actual birthing, right? I knew that, of course, I could read up and find out, but I was not a OB nurse or a neonatal nurse or anything that had to do with the baby part of it. So I had to go back and really read up on what to expect. And then I also think that there's just this heightened level of expectation that kind of weighs in too, right? Because you're carrying around this human being inside of you, and so many things could potentially happen. And so I do believe that coaching through it and understanding it, and really understanding what it is that you're about to embark on, plays just as much of a role as it does on the physical piece of it, of giving birth. And I think,
Totally.
yeah, you
Totally.
got, yeah. So you mentioned this a little bit, Felicia, about the statistics. So I want us to kind of talk about that a little bit. So the underpinning of everything that I do is to try and decrease and eliminate our health disparities. Talk about us not having access to not only healthcare, but quality healthcare, for women in our community to understand the doula, the roles of a doula. So when we talk about the statistics, you mentioned how our ACE scores are lower. Explain that just a little bit, but I want to preface it and set that up by just saying what those statistics are. That in our community, African American women and Hispanic women are 2 to 3 times more likely to experience maternal mortality than our white or Caucasian counterparts. So just kind of speak to that a little bit and really talk to us about what shifts, what causes that to be an issue. What are some of the shifts in the care delivery? Or is it just exactly what I talked about? The lack of, access to quality health care. What is it that you're seeing as a doula that makes that number so lopsided?
Well, part of it is that healthcare isn't the same. You can put
Mm-hmm.
a white woman and an African American woman in the same medical room, and the quality of care that she receives is going to look very different.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is and honestly, this is a real raw conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, it's
Yeah.
because of her blackness,
Mm-hmm.
where she will be treated differently than her white counterpart. Um, let's just talk about breastfeeding.
Yes.
A white mama can say, "I want to breastfeed," and a black mama can say she wants to breastfeed. The black mama, inevitably, the baby will be given a bottle and will get less support in that delivery room
Yes.
after she had the baby than the white counterpart.
Yes, I want to
And the
apologize.
reason that I mentioned about ACE scores is that our trauma, our
Mhm.
poverty levels, poverty, let's just say this. Poverty in a white person and poverty in an African American person look completely different. Why?
Yes.
Because
Mhm.
the level of help we're going to get is going to be different.
Mhm.
The churches, and I hate to say this, churches in white communities, in our Caucasian communities, support their white families different than
Yeah.
the African American churches in our African
Mhm.
American communities. How do I
Absolutely.
know this? I know this firsthand. I've worked in both African American communities and white communities,
Mhm.
and I saw the support for my white sisters differently than my African American sisters.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
it's just a known fact.
Mhm.
Um, I would even go a step further though. Let's talk about history. Our history, a doula what became a thing because even in our southern
Mhm.
traditions, uh, our African American sisters did not get medical care the same way, and we were often treated by a woman who was called a catcher, she or a treater,
Mhm.
or a community liaison. She would be now termed in today's world a nurse, but she pretty much took care of her community.
Mhm.
And that's how it became a thing. And it's very personal, it's very different.
Right.
You
Mhm.
also have to consider our African American culture. Our culture is different. We are more hands on.
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but in my household, when I was a child, my mother
Mhm.
took me when she absolutely had to the doctor. Other
Yep.
than that, either
Mhm.
she took care of me or my grandmother took care of me in her kitchen. She didn't take me to the doctor. So being a doula also gives that different level of community that we're used to in our African American culture. to in our culture. It's something we know. It's something we used to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's so true. Everything that you just said, and I know you're having a little bit of a connectivity issue, but just really expanding upon a couple of the points that you made. Again, it goes back to resources, access, and the delivery of care, even if they do have access to care, right? You gave
Absolutely.
the example of having two women
Absolutely.
in the room and being treated by the same medical doctor, and what I've experienced both at the bedside as well as just interviewing clients is that both of them, again, can have access, a Caucasian woman and African American woman, and maybe say that they're experiencing the same issues. Let's say it's hypertensive episodes throughout their pregnancy, and the way that they're treated also can be very different. The treatment modalities may vary from one to the other. You mentioned breastfeeding. And so I
Absolutely.
want to break away quickly just for a sponsored commercial break. But when we come back, Felicia, what I want us to talk about is how can we shift that? What is it that we can do to make that different? And I think you touched upon this a little bit, but I really want us to make sure that the viewers and our listeners know exactly what to do, because again, the purpose of talking about this and the reason why I do the show is so that not only are we educating, but we're empowering. So I want women that are listening to be empowered on what it is that they can do so that those drastic, ho hum drum numbers of what our maternal expectation or life expectancy looks like does not have to translate into them experiencing that. So I want to take a moment again, just to kind of go to a commercial break. And then when I return, I want you all to really listen in, because if not for yourself, maybe for your daughter or your grandchildren that may be in child rearing ages that may be getting, pregnant in the future. So I want us to make sure that we have the information that we need. So it looks like we've lost Felicia again. When we come back from commercial break, hopefully she will rejoin the conversation.
The weather is breaking and the numbers are low. The Vitamin M Box is coming to Richmond to celebrate our 5th year anniversary. This year, it's all about community, connections, and culture. Meet me Saturday, May 28th at the St. Luke Legacy Center in historic Jackson Ward from 3 to 7. Come out, shop local, get pampered. It's going to be a whole melanated vibe. Hosted by your girl, Corinne Carter.
Go back in history, the St. Luke building was really like the epicenter for Black business. Enterprises, Maggie L. Walker, her St. Luke Penny Savings Bank, the St. Luke Order. If you were anybody doing business through Richmond, you came to the St. Luke building.
It's the Vitamin M Richmond experience where we shop and support Black-owned everything, baby. See you Saturday, May 28th.
Welcome back to the Women's Wellness Lounge show. I'm your host, Elena Watkins, and we are joined this evening by none other than Felicia McKoy Laguerre. So we have been talking about becoming a doula, or using a doula in our community, the importance of it. And just before commercial break, I talked about the importance of it. So I'm going to bring her back on and have her share how we can gain access to a doula. She gave us the role of a doula. Could you see yourself or a loved one utilizing a doula to help us to hopefully decrease those numbers of maternal mortality among the African American women and Hispanic women? We need to begin to have these conversations about what that looks like. Why is it that our Blackness does not allow us to have access to not only the same care, higher quality care, and maybe even the treatment that we're receiving, even when we do have access to that care? And I think having a doula, which not only showing, having to tell you what it is that you should be looking for, questions you should be asking, what should be occurring at various visits, why you should be encouraging breastfeeding, and why your baby should not be receiving a bottle if you've expressed that you want to breastfeed. So there's a whole lot of things that kind of happen during that postnatal period that's just as important as in the prenatal period. And so tonight's show really was talking about giving birth to a healthy legacy. So not only am I talking about your legacy, but our legacy is our future. And if we can't give birth to, healthy babies, and even ourselves live through the birthing process, then again, we're cutting off the our legacy and where we are, which is very unfortunate for us. Okay. And so tonight's guest, and let me bring her back onto the show. There you are. Okay, so I want you to pick up, Felicia, where you left off with walking us through what a doula can do in that process to shift and change those numbers as it relates to our postnatal care.
Great question, Delana. A doula can help relieve a lot of the stress. She's going to come with knowledge, resources, information,
Mhm.
um, and just connectivity, just connecting with that mom to let her know she's supported. That alone is going to help take a lot of stress off of the pregnancy, off of mom, to hope that she'll have a healthier birth outcome.
Absolutely. So if I'm utilizing a doula, and I always try to like break things down so that not only those that are watching us live, and please let me know, type in the chat box if you have any questions, but not only for those that are watching us live, but that may watch the replay also on the podcast. I like to just try to break it down so that if you've never experienced it, or maybe you've never heard of what a doula does, or whatever it is that we're talking on the show, I like to give to paint the picture for people so that they can envision themselves either making that change, embracing something new or different, or possibly saying, "Oh, I think that this will be a great service for someone else in my life," right? So, if I'm thinking about conceiving, where would I begin to look for a doula? What should I look for in a doula? What should I expect once I do find a doula? What should I expect from this person? What does that relationship look like? So, kind of walk me through kind of, selling your service, or selling the importance or significance of utilizing a doula.
Well, the importance of utilizing a doula is so that you can have a healthy birth outcome. But not only that, a doula can be resourceful even in the delivery room to help you have a natural birth,
Mhm.
to make sure that whatever your needs are supported, as well as once you have the baby. There are some doulas that do in capitalization, which pretty much is converting your placenta over into capsules, so that they
Hmm.
can be nutritious. uh,
No, I've
there
heard of that.
there are so doulas just to help you with making sure that you have what you need after you have the baby. Some doulas help with the baby, especially getting the baby to sleep at night. um, they also help with childcare, fixing meals. Some doulas are herbalists like myself, where we create herbal remedies that can help mom uh, create the breastfeeding flow,
Mhm.
to create milk, just different topics, getting the baby to latch on. There are
Yes.
doulas that help with if there's infant loss, or
Right.
a
Mhm.
loss in childbirth. At wide range or community centers. They have information about doulas. Myself, I can be found on Facebook at Felicia McKoy Laguerre. I also can be reached by the Real McCoy Coaching, Doula, Herbs, and Training Services on Facebook as well. You can email me at teerealmccoy@gmail.com. I am connected with a wide range of services and doulas. So even if I can't service you, I know doulas who
Mhm.
can.
Great. That look, you went right into it because I was like, ooh, I hope she goes right into, since you were having connectivity issues, how they can reach you if they are looking for or wanting to utilize doula services, or just to even ask more deeper questions than what we've covered here tonight. So I want people to get a better understanding of the role of a doula, just because again, when we think of a lot of times just those 30 to 60-second sound bites, or maybe what you've seen on a YouTube video, or something that you may have been even looking at yourself, or something someone told you. Sometimes it's not the complete picture, because even for myself, when I started to do the research on doula, there was more than I ever realized what it is that they could do. Like she was explaining, there's certain levels of what a doula can do, and services that they can offer. And I know, just as I said before, if I could go back during my two childbirths and utilize a doula, I definitely would have done so, especially around the breastfeeding piece of it. I was very ill prepared and really got a little frustrated with the breastfeeding with my first child. It was, and I think that having someone else there would have been so much easier for me, and would have been, a lot more support for me at home.
Absolutely. So you
Yeah.
didn't feel alone.
Yeah.
And I think mamas can, you can have a discussion with your doula on the services you need, because there are doulas who just work with moms who pregnant. There are doulas who work with the moms
Mhm.
specifically just after childbirth, and anywhere in
Yeah.
between. So mamas can ask those questions and say clearly, this is what I want a doula for, this is why I think I need a doula.
Right.
And we can curtail our services to meet the needs of mom. um,
That's awesome.
Another important part that I want to mention is
Hmm.
that it is also important for mamas to know that birth spacing is important. Why? What
Yes.
is birth spacing, you say?
Hmm.
Birth spacing is just giving your body time to heal, to recover, to prepare for the next baby. So a good measure of time is about 15 months between each child. It gives your body the
Hmm.
chance to restore, to recover. And I would encourage any mom who after having a baby, that you continue your prenatal vitamins, because you,
Yes.
especially if you're breastfeeding, you're giving
Absolutely.
away everything that you need to your baby. And
Hmm.
so, doing eating healthy but taking multivitamins is a great way of restoring your body and trying to get back to some normalcy, so that you will
Hmm.
have the strength and the
Yep.
power, to take care of that new little one.
Absolutely. That is such a great point. Because yes, if it wasn't for, again, me being a healthcare provider, being a nurse, knowing that I continue to take my prenatal vitamins after. But again, a lot of women may not know that, and may not know the benefits of that. Because again, there's a lot of things that take place during that whole pregnancy transitional period, and then the restorative period immediately following childbirth.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
yes. So this has been a great discussion. Listen, there is a whole lot more, of course, that we can go delve into. So I know that I most certainly want to have you back on the show in the near future, so that we can talk. I really want us to go into the whole piece about the preventive piece as it relates to maternal mortality. So I want the next conversation that we have to really focus on that. But I felt tonight giving birth to a healthy legacy was my primary goal. And I think we definitely accomplished that by just talking about what a doula does, and being able to understand that not only are there levels to it, it's benefits of having a relationship with a doula, and hiring one for those services. And you can do a consultation to find out how much or how little of those services that you need. As she said, you can curtail, once you do the consultation, what it is that you feel that you need, and based on the consultation, and then have them be able to provide those services to you. So, Felicia, give your website just one more time.
Right now, you can find me on Facebook at Felicia McKoy Laguerre, or on Facebook at The Real McCoy Coaching Doula Herbs and Training Services LLC. Or you can email me at Real McCoy, and McCoy's with a K, at gmail.com.
Perfect. Thank you once again for
Thank
joining
you.
me tonight in the Women's Wellness Lounge. So, ladies, you all know that I like to keep it real, raw, and relevant here in the Women's Wellness Lounge. So, I hope that you all heard something or learned something new that you may not have previously heard or knew, or maybe you thought you understood what a doula did, and now you really have a clearer understanding of what a doula can provide. And again, we'll look into understanding that and possibly even using that service for yourself or for a loved one. So tonight we talked about, so again, this is the Becoming Her series for the month of April. And tonight it really was about birthing a healthy legacy, because not only do we want to make sure that we're maintaining health for ourselves, but we want to make sure that we're giving birth to healthy babies in our community as well. So, again, you can find out more information about the Women's Wellness Lounge by visiting womenswellnesslounge.org. You all know, of course, that you can find me all over social media, on the Women's Wellness Lounge page, on my personal page, and DelanaWatkins.com. So, what do we have coming up in the Women's Wellness Lounge? Well, we have our Pinky Promise book project, and we're looking for women who have either experienced breast cancer, are currently in treatment, or if you're a caregiver for someone who is going through treatment. I'm going to put up the website so that you all can see where you can go to find out more information about the book coming up. And it's bit.ly Pinky Promises. So it is scrolling at the top of today's show. Again, if you're listening to us on the podcast, it's bit.ly /Pinky Promises. And you can get more information there. If you are an organization that works with women that are going through or providing services to women who are currently in treatment for breast cancer, we would like to partner with you on becoming a sponsor or referring women from your organization to participate in the book project. And basically, what it is during that project, women will share affirmations, motivational poems, scriptures, personal stories, or words of encouragement for other Pink sisters that are going through treatment. That book will be provided in a Pinky Promise care package. And so, what other way than for other Pink sisters to share words of encouragement to women that are going through, because they're going to make Pinky Promises together. So, again, thank you guys for joining us. If you have any questions, make sure that you leave a comment, or you can send me an email at womenswellnesslounge.org. And I always appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you share the video so that other women can get the information that we shared here tonight. Again, thanks to my special guest, Felicia McKoy Laguerre.